The good news associated with the Kavanaugh hearings is that the American Bar Association called for the nomination process to be put on hold and for the FBI to investigate the serious, new, and credible allegations that have been made against Kavanaugh. In addition, the Jesuits called for Kavanaugh's nomination to be withdrawn altogether. That's quite in contrast to the behavior of the Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, who continue to refuse to release to committee Democrats 100,000 documents pertaining to Kavanaugh's record. In this era of the loudest, shrillest, most strident voices, when people who have a piece of the power of the machine are scratching and clawing to hold on to it and who will sell their souls to keep it, there still are people of good sense and goodwill. We're all the better for that. Here's the really good news to come from this mostly sordid Kavanaugh affair. Senator Jeff Flake, Republican of Arizona, was cornered in an elevator by two women survivors of sexual assault. They confronted him with the intolerable of his knowing of the allegations against Kavanaugh and yet being likely to vote him on to the Supreme Court anyway, and what that would say to these women and the many women like them. One of the women, Maria Gallagher, courageously said, quote, "Don't look away from me. Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me, that you will let people like that go into the highest court of the land and tell everyone what they can do with their bodies." Close quotes. It was a watershed moment of demanding the respect that was due her, respect that had heretofore been denied and is commonly denied to women who have been abused in this way. Apparently, it made a difference. Flake went back to the committee room and agreed to vote Kavanaugh out of committee with a proviso that there be a delay in a floor vote and an FBI investigation into the allegations against Kavanaugh. Jeff Flake just stood up to the President of the United States, Senate leadership, and much of Senate membership in order to do the right thing. Even one man with a spine is a really good thing. Last year, Congress gave away $1.9 trillion in tax breaks, and 83% of it went to wealthy people and corporations. Apparently, that wasn't enough for them, so as the nation was focused on the Kavanaugh political drama, the House voted to up the tax gift to $3 trillion. Gotta wonder where that money will come from. You don't suppose it might be taken from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, do you? That sneaky stuff by Paul Ryan's house may not sound like good news, but like the kid finding piles of horse manure in his backyard and declaring happily, "There's gotta be a pony here somewhere," there is some good news in sneaky Paul's behavior. In their haste to suck all sense from government, House Republicans used the Kavanaugh cover of darkness to ram this bill through. In doing so, they've shown us conclusively exactly who and what they are. That's the good news. In the 1970s and 80s, the reach and impact of HIV/AIDS was terrifying. There were no tools to combat it. Now this from the Boston Globe's STAT publication. Just a decade ago, 45,000 people in the U.S. were contracting HIV each year. Now the fight against HIV could be undergoing a sea change, buoyed by the astonishing impact of effective HIV medications. Health officials and HIV experts are beginning to talk about a future in which transmission could be halted in the U.S. We have the science to solve the AIDS epidemic, CDC Director Robert Redfield tells STAT. Now that's good news indeed. Bill Cosby squandered a lifetime of entertainment success by preying upon women, by drugging them and then sexually violating them. He was found guilty of sexual assault and last week was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison plus a $25,000 fine, as well as having to pay prosecution costs of about $43,000. In addition, his sentence includes mandatory monthly counseling, and Cosby will have to register as a sex offender if and when he's released. The good news is that at last victims were heard instead of shamed and blamed, and that justice, however delayed, was served. Finally, 141 children are still in U.S. custody after having been ripped from their parents' arms and kidnapped by the U.S. government. Reunification is difficult because after kidnapping the children, the geniuses in Washington had their parents deported and did so without creating documentation that would tie children to their parents. That sounds bad, but here's the good news. A 6-year-old girl named Marianita was reunited with her parents in Honduras last week. That's why there are 141 asylum-seeking children still in kid prisons in the U.S. instead of 142. I'm Jack Alshuler.